Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen. Technology makes life so convenient. Whether it's your smart home, smart car, or smartphone, everything is wireless, smarter, and faster these days. 5G is being deployed around the world. With 5G technology, you have smaller cells and closer together, which pump out faster data speeds, prompting much discussion of the Internet of Things, or IoTs, where everything is connected seamlessly. But is there a hidden cost to this speed and convenience? Is our health being impacted negatively from RF exposure and 5G? Is all this technology safe? And what about the health of our children? Wi-Fi routers are installed in many classrooms in the country to afford ease of access to the internet within classrooms. But at what cost? Is Wi-Fi in the classroom actually healthy? Well, joining me now to share his expertise and research on all of this is Frank Clegg, former president of Microsoft Canada and now CEO of Canadians for Safe Technology. Frank, thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for deciding to spend time on this important topic.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent topic, and I hear so much online and in discussions with family members about technology. So you're the former president, as I said, of Microsoft Canada, and now you're an advocate for safe technology. How did you find yourself in this work?
About 7 or 8 years ago, Minister Smitherman at the time decided to put a gas-fired power plant, the second largest one in the country, in our local community, which had no other power plant so close to all dense population of schools, homes, residences, and hospitals.
And Minister Smitherman was the former Minister of Health.
Energy Minister in Ontario.
Here in Ontario.
Yes. And so I got recruited to join a group that really basically raised a lot of awareness in the community and convinced the government to actually move that power plant to a less busy and a less populated area. So it became known in the community, and I was approached by 3 different families. One with Bell Canada had put 9 antennas 20 meters from their child's bedroom. Another antenna was placed on a fire station right next to a kid's playground, and another one is in a shopping mall 70 meters. So what I did was I spent a lot of time, because I was retired, dealing with experts from McGill, University of Toronto, Yale, Harvard, Columbia, a World Health Organization expert, a member of Al Gore's team that won the Nobel Prize, and read dozens and dozens of studies and came to the conclusion that our implementation of wireless technology is absolutely not safe in Canada.
Wow. Okay, so one of your concerns, and correct me if I've phrased this incorrectly, but you're concerned with the amount of radio frequency electromagnetic energy that is being absorbed by our bodies. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So why should Canadians be concerned?
Well, first of all, Canadians need to understand that this radio frequency is radiation. Full stop. We know about X-ray radiation because we've just learned over the years that X-ray radiation is harmful. This radiation is on a lower level of the spectrum. It's called non-ionizing. Long story short, because it doesn't heat tissue, Health Canada and other countries around the world have come to the conclusion that because it doesn't heat tissue, it doesn't harm us. And that's been disproven. There's 2 concerns about, Tanya, about the radiation. First of all, as the number of devices increase, there are now more cell phones in the world than there are toilets.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's going to be actually more and more use of cell phones. We're using more and more devices. We're using them more and more. And people aren't aware that every wireless device has a warning on it to tell you how far to keep it away from your body before you break federal guidelines. There was a study done that 80% of Canadians have never seen those warnings, and 60% of Canadians admit to holding their device, whether it's their cell phone to their head, in their pants pocket, women are carrying it in their bras, or putting your laptop directly on your lap. Right. Well, you're breaking safety regulations when you do that, and the majority of Canadians don't know it. So there's going to be significantly more devices. We're going to use them significantly more frequently, and we're going to be using them, and we're not aware to keep them away from our body. So those are really the 2 concerns. So
what is the concern then with holding a cell phone, as I believe it's been designed to be used, right against my ear? What is the concern about that? What's the concern about me with a Wi-Fi enabled laptop putting it on my lap?
There are hundreds of peer-reviewed studies that show there are direct links to cell phones and Wi-Fi radiation to cancer, to sperm damage and other reproductive issues, to memory deficits and learning disabilities, especially in children, and damage at the cellular and the DNA level.
Let's pick this chat up right when we return. Thank you. Welcome back. I'm here with President of Canadians for Safe Technology, Frank Clegg. Frank, again, former president of Microsoft Canada. Thanks again for joining me in studio. Before the break, you were outlining numerous peer-reviewed studies and a lot of concerns of the safety of radio frequency and their emissions. The telecom sector is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, globally, multi-trillion-dollar industry. Why are we not hearing any of these concerns elsewhere?
The telecommunications sector executive are responsible to their shareholders, and they're responsible to drive shareholder value. So there is no motivation for them to do anything to slow down the use of technology or to slow down the acceptance of technology. In fact, I have yet to hear any executive from any telecommunications company or any technology manufacturing device manufacturer say their technology is safe. All they will say is they meet federal guidelines. So you're not going to hear anything from them. The only studies that are being done by independent scientists. The industry is not doing any studies to fund pure independent studies. They're scientists that they hire to run studies to kind of really camouflage and break up studies that are done by independent researchers. But we're not seeing any technology industry or rest of my industry doing any pure independent research.
Okay, and you mentioned that they feel they just have to, which is good, that they have to adhere to the federal guidelines. So my next natural question is then, well, what are the federal guidelines and are they good enough?
The guidelines, in Canada, we use something called Safety Code 6, which are a set of guidelines that are designed by Health Canada. And they're a set of suggestions. Industry Science and Economic Development Canada then uses those guidelines as the criteria for device manufacturers or cell tower implementers to use them. The problem with Safety Code 6, it was created back in the 1970s and 1980s. It has not had a major revision since then. And what concerns us, and these are the scientists that are on C4ST's advisory panel, and scientists around the world. We had 50 scientists write to Health Canada saying, please update Safety Code 6. Health Canada has never done a proper evaluation of the science that meets international standards. They just don't. They don't even own the software to do that analysis properly. So not only is the science and that they use out of date, the technology that they don't have to use it, and also the federal government. Our estimates are that there's $20 billion in revenue from the federal government from auctioning off these frequencies.
Right.
So what I would argue, there's 20 billion reasons why the federal government doesn't want to actually slow down the use of cell phones and other devices in Canada.
Okay, I'm probably going to get back to that in just a moment. So I'm hearing the term electrosensitivity a lot more.
Yes.
We were talking about some of the concerns with radio frequency emissions. What is electrosensitivity and how is it being manifest?
Electrosensitivity and sometimes referred to as microwave sickness. There are certain individuals, and the most conservative estimate is 3% of the population. There is some very good science and very good evaluations coming out of Europe that show there's probably more like 10% of the population. So that's anywhere from 1 million to 3 million Canadians who will show a sensitivity to either a cell phone. Some individuals can't hold them in their hands because their hands start to go numb. Tinnitus is a very common ailment. Heart palpitations. Some people have used the term memory fog, where they just really lose cognitive abilities. And so these are really the canaries in the coal mines. These are the people that have this sensitivity. It's not really an allergy. It's more sensitivity. It's very similar to chemical sensitivities, where some people can't, must eat organic or other non-chemical pesticide foods. Well, we're seeing that same thing. And the concern is that there's really nobody evaluating this. Health Canada acknowledges that there is something called electrosensitivity, but they stop there and they say, but there's no proof that that's tied to RF radiation or wireless radiation. Yet they refuse to do any work on it. The World Health Organization makes the same statement, but then doesn't do anything to try to do it. Austria is the only country in the world where they have done the work and done the research and have issued guidelines to physicians, to family physicians. Mm-hmm. It's a 2-page questionnaire saying if you're starting to see some of these symptoms, it's very possible that your patient could be sensitive to radio frequency radiation.
So, clearly there's work to be done to, I guess you could say, codify this, that there is a link, because right now in Canada, we've acknowledged it, but we're not doing the research to follow up and say exactly what is, like, quantify it and actually detail and delineate what's going on.
Yes, and actually part of there was a parliamentary committee, the Health Parliamentary Committee had 3 sessions on RF radiation and Safety Code 6 specifically. One of the 4 other 12 recommendations were about electrosensitivity and doing more work, one including the CMA to actually educate and train doctors to look for these, and Health Canada just ignored all of the recommendations from that parliamentary committee.
Well, it sounds like Safety Code 6 is something that many of us need to be a bit more on the ball with, and it seems to me it needs to be updated, and I'm glad to hear that the Canadian doctors are now engaged somewhat on this. We're going to come back to this topic just after we finish this break. Welcome back. We're discussing Wi-Fi, 5G technology, radio frequencies, all that stuff here with Frank Clegg, President of Canadians for Safe Technology. Thanks again for joining me in studio. Let's discuss 5G specifically. 5G is the next generation of mobile technologies. We're able to do a lot more with this technology. However, you have reservations about its safety specifically. What's different in 5G than 4G and 3G?
5G, Tanya, is a marketing term. It has not anything to do with the technology. So all it is an extension of the frequencies that we're using for 2, 3, and 4G. So all of the health concerns and all the environmental concerns and all the privacy concerns and the security concerns with 2, 3, and 4G apply to 5G. Only more because there will be more devices and there will be more information that people will be sharing. So as you share more information, so the pipe for 5G is actually bigger and there's more information going. The trade-off on that is there's more radiation required to use that, to react to that technology, and the opportunity for privacy and security hacks goes up exponentially because there's more data that's being shared.
Right. So basically, I appreciate it's a marketing gimmick, but due to the use that we anticipate will happen with 5G once it's fully rolled out, it will actually, in your opinion, have a greater effect and impact on our health.
Absolutely. Because of the technology limitations on 5G, whether the cell tower or small antennas will need to be closer to the sources of the information, so closer to the cell tower device, to the smartphone devices.
Right.
And so we have seen modeling that shows in dense areas it could be as close as every 100 meters will need a small cell antenna.
Like in Toronto, for example.
In Toronto or in St. Catharines here, or any area where there's a lot of residences or a lot of businesses, you're going to need the antennas. We're also seeing in pilot installations a small cell antenna 20 meters from a child's bedroom. So that's
presently. How far are cell phone antennas?
Well, you can have a cell tower antenna kilometers away.
Okay.
And still provide the coverage that you need.
But due to the nature of 5G technology,
it has to be closer. It has to be significantly closer. The second thing, there's going to be significantly more of them. So whereas right now I think we have about 800,000 antennas in Canada, that number could double or even triple as we start to roll out 5G. Third concern is there has been no testing done to show that 5G technology is safe to humans and to the environment. None whatsoever. The other part of 5G is there's something called millimeter waves. And for the first time, we will be using these millimeter waves in telecommunication networks. Millimeter waves are what the Israeli and the U.S. Defense Department uses for crowd control. Because what it does is it makes the skin hurt so much that people actually disperse if they're in crowds. Now, my industry scientists will say that doesn't matter because the power levels are different. I maintain we have no clue what that radiation is going to do, that millimeter wave radiation is going to do when you're exposed to it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from many sources, because we know the cell tower companies do not share their antennas. So I could create a scenario where there's 3 or 4 of these cell tower antennas, small cell antennas, emitting millimeter wave technology 24 hours a day to somebody's bedroom that could be 30 or 40 meters away.
Wow, sounds like definitely something that needs investigating. So if this 5G technology is a concern, and you mentioned Israel and the U.S., have they come out against 5G? What has the response been from other countries with 5G technology?
There are 4 countries in the world that are leading the charge: China, Russia, Italy, and Switzerland.
Leading the charge to implement the technology?
No, for the best safety standards. So the safety standards in those 4 countries are 50 times better In other words, lower levels that they would accept than we have in Canada. France has done some amazing work on schools and Wi-Fi. They forbid schools to have Wi-Fi in nursery schools or elementary schools. In the elementary schools, the teacher has control of the access point of the router so they can turn it off. In France, it is illegal to market a cell phone without talking about either using a speakerphone or using the a speaker cable to use it. Belgium, it's illegal to market cell phones or any technology, wireless technology, to children under 7 years of age.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, I know when we had a chat off camera, that Berkeley in the United States, in California, has something similar where they put warnings on cellular phone packages.
Yes, they have done that, and my industry has taken them to the Supreme Court in California and is now trying to take them to the Supreme Court of the U.S. to block a little note that says, well, on the point of sale of the terminal, that this may be hazardous. According to FCC guidelines and regulations, this may be hazardous to your health. That's all that says. And Berkeley has stood by their guns. They've hired a team of lawyers to defend their bylaw that basically says you have to have this notice if you want to sell a cell phone in Berkeley, California.
Sort of how we have here in Canada on cigarette packages. We have warnings of the health ramifications. I want to come back after this break and discuss more about Wi-Fi in schools. So stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm joined with Frank Clegg, president of Canadians for Safe Technology. Frank, we were talking about 5G just before the break. I want to go back to Wi-Fi. We all have Wi-Fi in our homes, and I understand that Wi-Fi has the same frequency as microwave. Many of us have microwave appliances in our home, and again, excuse my ignorance, I'm learning as I'm speaking with you. But after 50 years, one would presume that microwave are pretty safe. They're safe for heating up food. We have them in our home. Does this mean that when we speak on a Wi-Fi enabled smartphone, that we're basically putting a microwave to our ear?
Yes, the power in the microwave inside that microwave oven is actually a higher power. But the frequency of the cell phone to your head, if it's in a Wi-Fi connected mode, is exactly the same frequency that microwave that cooks that popcorn or cooks your meat. So people just have to be aware of that. And in fact, the new cell phones have up to 4 antennas in them. So they will have one that's Wi-Fi enabled, one that's Bluetooth, and then 2 that may communicate with different towers. So the risk, as we talked about earlier, about putting that phone to your head is only going to increase as there's more function provided by that device and there's more use that you make of it. So the other thing that we've learned is that distance is your friend in terms of using the technology. So the radiation level goes down with the inverse of the square. In other words, if I double the distance, the radiation goes down 4 times. If I triple the distance, the radiation goes down 9 times.
Is this why my mother used to always say, don't stand in front of the microwave oven?
Well, because microwaves, when they come out of the factory, they're sealed. But over time, the seal will break. And so, yes, there is a risk that you will be getting radiation, especially with an older microwave oven.
Okay,
sure.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so, you know, I've said it, we all have Wi-Fi in our homes. Canadians, we love our technology. How do we keep up with the rest of the world and balance our health concerns at the same time?
There are 2 things that Canadians need to keep in mind. And we have on our c4st.org is our website. We have a set of safety tips. There's 9 tips. And really what it's about is we say to individuals, there's 2 things you need to worry about. The first thing is distance is your friend. As I said before, the radiation goes down with the square of the distance. So keep the device away from your body as far as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can. So if you can get in the habit of speaking on a speakerphone, use that all the time. If you're using a laptop, put it on a hard surface away from your body. Keep it away from your reproductive
organ. On a desk or
on a desk or anything that keeps it away. The distance, again, double the distance, triple the distance, quadruple the distance. That's very, very important. Do not at any time put it near your body. Do not put it in your pocket. Do not put it in your bra. Just keep that thing away, no matter what that device is. The second thing is create a safe haven in your residence where you live. And what that says is, if you have a Wi-Fi router in the house and you can't run cables everywhere because not everybody can, go to a hardware store and buy a timer that you put on your light. So when you go to bed, the timer turns off the Wi-Fi. So your body is in a state of rest and repair.
So just like one of those simple like Christmas lights or
exactly, and just put that on and have it go off when you're asleep and have it go on when you don't want to. Make sure that router is in the basement. Do not put it in your study. Do not put it in the kid's bedroom or near the kid's bedroom. Don't put it in the kitchen. Keep it down in the basement where it goes. And then you can start to actually play with the power setting on it. We did that in a school where we were able to reduce the radiation levels by 90% in the school by just turning the power levels down and moving the routers.
Where is this power level switch? Or
you'd have it's different ones, but the manual will say to you where you can find it.
on the back of your router?
On the back of the router. Do not sleep with that device in your bedroom. I know people don't want to hear that.
It's
Don't do it.
terrible.
Don't do that.
Okay, I
your
won't.
your body. No, I'm sorry. I'm coming a little strong, but
No, it's
your
good.
body needs to be in a state of rest and repair when you're sleeping. Get rid of all of those devices. Keep them out of the house as much as you possibly can. Get rid of the deck phones, the portable phones, because they're constantly emitting.
What about schools? We have about half a minute left.
Yes.
What about schools? What can schools do?
Schools can do the same thing. If you're doing it, route it as much as you can. Give control to the teacher in the classroom to turn the router off. If you need to download the information and the students need to use the devices, then just do that. Have the devices in offline mode. Turn them in Wi-Fi mode off, Bluetooth off, and airplane mode. You can do that work on that local device, and then you can upload it at the end of the class.
Lots of tips here to keep us safe.
Yes, and
both
again,
at
keep
home.
it away from
Keep it
the
away. So these are great tips. Thank you so much, Frank, for being here. I really appreciate your insight in this issue.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for covering it.
What we've heard has been most enlightening. It seems there are some bona fide concerns Canadians should have with 5G technology. Lots to consider here as we balance our health and ease of technology. And for your information, I did ask the Canadian Wireless Telecommunications Association, which is an industry stakeholder group and advocates and educates on 5G, to join me. They declined. This has been Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen.